If you walk with confidence, if you know your worth, if you refuse to be played, then there's one thing you need to understand. Narcissists fear you. They fear you because they can't control you. And if they can't control you, they can't use you. Narcissists do not admire strength. They fear it. They don't look at a strong, confident person and think, I respect that. No, they see a threat. They see someone they cannot easily manipulate. They see someone who will not bow to their control, and that shakes them to their core. A narcissist's entire existence is built around control. They do not seek connection, love, or mutual respect in relationships. They seek power. They need to be the dominant force in any situation, whether in personal relationships, the workplace, or even social circles. Their ego is fragile, and their greatest fear is losing control over the people around them. That's why when they encounter a strong person, someone with self-respect, clear boundaries, and an independent mind, they become anxious. That strength is like a mirror reflecting back their own insecurities, and narcissists cannot stand to look at their own weaknesses. So what do? They don't just walk away. They don't admit they are outmatched. No, they try to find ways to bring that strong person down, because if they cannot control you, they will try to weaken you. It starts with subtle manipulation. They will test your boundaries just to see how far they can push you. Maybe they'll question your decisions in a way that makes you second guess yourself. Maybe they'll throw in little backhanded compliments, planting seeds of doubt in your mind. Wow, you're so independent, but sometimes you're a little too much, don't you think? They say it with a smile, but the intention is clear: to make you question your strength, to make you wonder if maybe you should tone yourself down. And if that doesn't work, they escalate. They will try to make you feel guilty for being strong. They will play the victim. Why do you have to be so stubborn? Why can't you just go along with things? Do you always have to be so difficult? Notice how they frame strength as a flaw. Notice how they make confidence seem like a problem. This is a classic manipulation tactic. If they can't break your confidence directly, they will make you feel guilty for having it in the first place. Then comes the real mind game: gaslighting. This is where a narcissist tries to rewrite reality itself. They will make you doubt your own memories, your own perceptions, your own truth. If you call them out on something, they will deny it ever happened. I never said that. You're imagining things. You always twist things around. And if you stand your ground, they will turn it back on you. You're too emotional. You're overreacting. You're being crazy. This is their way of trying to make you second guess yourself, because if you start questioning your own mind, you become easier to control. But here's the key: strong people are not easily fooled. A person with true inner strength can recognize these tactics. They see the manipulation for what it is. And that's why narcissists fear them, because a strong person is not only resistant to control, they expose the truth. And nothing terrifies a narcissist more than being exposed. This is why narcissists go to such great lengths to discredit strong people. If they can't manipulate you, they will try to turn others against you. They will spread rumors, twist the story, and paint you as the villain. They might say you're too aggressive, or too full of yourself, or hard to deal with. Anything to make it seem like you're the problem, not them. Why? Because if they can't control you, they want to control how others see you. And this is why it is so important to stand firm in your strength, to know who you are, to trust your own mind, because the moment you allow a narcissist to define you, they have already won. The moment you start watering yourself down to make them comfortable, you have given them power. But when you stand tall, when you refuse to be manipulated, when you trust yourself above all else, that's when you become untouchable. That's when you break free. A narcissist thrives on control, but they cannot control a person who refuses to be controlled. That's why they fear strong people. That's why they try so hard to weaken them. But strength, true strength, cannot be taken away. It is something that lives inside of you. And when you own that strength, when you stand in it unapologetically, no narcissist in the world can shake you. A narcissist's greatest fear is exposure. Beneath the carefully crafted mask of confidence, charm, and superiority lies a deep, unshakable insecurity. They know deep down that their power is not built on real strength, but on deception. Their entire existence depends on controlling the way others perceive them, manipulating emotions, and keeping people in a state of confusion. The moment someone strong comes along, someone who sees through the illusion and refuses to be deceived, the narcissist panics. because once exposed, their entire game falls apart. This is why narcissists are constantly on edge around strong individuals. They sense the danger immediately. A person with self-awareness, confidence, and emotional intelligence is like a bright light shining directly on the narcissist's shadow. And narcissists cannot survive in the light. They thrive in spaces where they can twist reality, distort facts, and make others doubt themselves. But when someone with clarity and strength steps in, those illusions start to crack. At first, the narcissist will test the waters. They will try small manipulations, subtle lies, and mind games to see if the strong person falls for them. They might exaggerate stories to make themselves look superior. They might play the victim to gain sympathy. They might subtly undermine the strong person's confidence with little criticisms disguised as concern. You're really smart, but sometimes you overthink things. Or, I admire your confidence, but you can be a little too much for people. They say these things casually as if they mean no harm, but the goal is clear: to create self-doubt, because self-doubt is the first crack in a person's strength. If these small manipulations don't work, the narcissist begins to feel threatened. They realize they are dealing with someone who cannot be easily controlled. And that's when their fear turns into a desperate need to discredit the strong person. They might start spreading misinformation, twisting stories, and turning people against the one who sees through them. They might say things like, I don't know what it is, but something about them just doesn't sit right with me. Or they act like they have everything figured out, but trust me, they're not as strong as they pretend to be. Why do they do this? Because a narcissist cannot handle being exposed. They rely on people seeing them as powerful, superior, or special. They carefully curate their image, ensuring that others admire or fear them. But the moment someone refuses to buy into that illusion, the narcissist loses control, and control is everything to them. So they fight back, not with truth, but with distortion. They will gaslight, accuse, and manipulate the narrative to make the strong person look like the problem. If the strong individual confronts the narcissist about their behavior, they will immediately flip the script. Why are you attacking me? You're overreacting. I can't believe you would think that about me. Suddenly, the strong person finds themselves on the defensive, forced to explain why they are simply standing up for themselves. This is not an accident. It is a calculated strategy designed to exhaust and confuse. Narcissists know that most people don't like confrontation. They know that if they create enough chaos, people will eventually back down just to avoid the drama. But here's where strong people hold power. The moment you recognize this game, you can refuse to play. A strong person does not waste time arguing with a narcissist. They do not let guilt or manipulation sway their judgment. They do not shrink themselves to keep the peace. And this is exactly why narcissists fear them, because a strong person is not only immune to their tactics, but also capable of revealing the truth to others. A narcissist does not just fear being exposed by one person, they fear that others will start to see through them too. They rely on group dynamics, on keeping people divided, on making sure that no one questions their authority. When a strong person starts calling out their behavior, it threatens that entire system of control. At their core, narcissists live in fear of being truly seen. They hide behind arrogance, superiority, and charm because they know that if people saw who they really were, if they saw the insecurity, the manipulation, the emptiness, they would no longer hold power. This is why they react with such aggression when confronted. It is not strength, it is panic. But here is where the strong person holds the ultimate advantage. Truth does not need manipulation. Confidence does not need validation. A person who knows who they are cannot be shaken by someone who relies on deception. And when you recognize this, when you refuse to be pulled into their chaos, when you stand firm in your awareness, the narcissist's power crumbles. This is why narcissists fear strong people, because a strong person forces them to confront the one thing they cannot handle, the truth. And in the presence of truth, their illusions cannot survive. A narcissist's greatest weapon is control. They do not function in relationships based on mutual respect, understanding, or genuine love. Their world revolves around dominance, having power over others, dictating how people feel, and ensuring that everything goes according to their plan. The moment they sense that they cannot control someone, they panic. They know that if they cannot break a strong person, they will eventually be exposed. And because they fear exposure more than anything, they double down on their efforts to regain control. Control is not just a preference for a narcissist, it is their survival mechanism. They operate in a world where they must always be the center of attention, the authority figure, or the victim in need of sympathy. But to maintain this position, they need to keep the people around them in a state of confusion, self-doubt, and emotional dependence. They cannot afford to let others think for themselves, because independent thinking leads to questioning, and questioning leads to the unraveling of their carefully constructed reality. This is why narcissists employ an arsenal of psychological tactics to maintain control. One of their most common strategies is gaslighting. This is where they distort reality, making the people around them doubt their own perceptions, memories, and feelings. If you catch them in a lie, they will say, "I never said that," even when you know they did. If you call them out on their hurtful behavior, they will insist, "You're overreacting," even when your feelings are valid. The goal is to make you question yourself so much that you begin to rely on them for guidance. Because if they can make you feel uncertain about your own mind, they can shape your reality however they want. Another way they maintain control is through guilt and obligation. A narcissist will often play the victim, twisting situations to make it seem as though they are the ones being wrong. They will remind you of everything they have supposedly done for you, making you feel like you owe them. "After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me?" They use guilt like a leash, keeping you tied to them through a false sense of responsibility. But the truth is, you do not owe a narcissist anything. Real relationships are built on mutual respect and choice, not on manipulation and forced loyalty. When guilt doesn't work, narcissists turn to emotional outbursts. They will use anger, silent treatment, or passive aggressiveness to create an atmosphere of tension. The goal is to make you feel like walking on eggshells, always trying to avoid setting them off. When a person is constantly in a state of anxiety, they become easier to manipulate. They start prioritizing the narcissist's emotions over their own, trying to keep the peace instead of standing up for themselves. This is not an accident. It is a deliberate strategy to break a person's willpower and establish dominance. If all else fails, narcissists use charm and love bombing to regain control. If they sense that you are pulling away, they suddenly become everything you wanted them to be. They shower you with praise, attention, and affection, making you question whether you were wrong about them. "See, I do care about you. You just misunderstood me." This is not genuine change. It is a trap. The moment they feel secure in their control again, they will revert to their old behaviors. Because a narcissist does not seek real growth or connection. They seek control. But the greatest fear of a narcissist is a person who refuses to be controlled, a person who does not fall for their gaslighting, a person who does not crumble under guilt, a person who does not allow fear to dictate their actions, a person who walks away when respect is no longer being given. The strongest defense against a narcissist is awareness. Once you recognize the pattern, their tactics lose power. You begin to see that their anger is not real strength, it is desperation. Their silent treatment is not punishment. It is an attempt to manipulate. Their guilt trips are not proof of your wrongdoing. They are proof of their need for control. The moment you stop engaging in their games, their grip on you weakens. A narcissist fears independence because they cannot control what they do not own. They fear people who set boundaries because boundaries strip them of their power. They fear truth because truth exposes their lies. And most of all, they fear people who walk away without looking back. A narcissist only has power over those who allow them to. The moment you recognize their tactics and refuse to play their game, you become the one thing they cannot handle. Free. A narcissist's greatest fear is losing control, and nothing threatens their control more than a strong person who refuses to be manipulated. When a narcissist encounters someone who knows their worth, sets firm boundaries, and refuses to accept mistreatment, they begin to panic. They know they cannot bend this person to their will, and that realization alone is enough to send them into a downward spiral. They will try every trick in the book to regain dominance, but when those tricks fail, their frustration turns into fear. And the truth is simple: your strength is their defeat. A narcissist does not view relationships as a space for mutual growth, love, or respect. They see them as a battleground where they must always be in control. Their goal is to make sure the people around them are emotionally dependent, unsure of themselves, and always seeking the narcissist's approval. But when they meet a strong individual, someone who refuses to play by those rules, the narcissist's carefully constructed world starts to fall apart. At first, they will try to undermine your confidence. They might criticize you in subtle ways, planting seeds of self-doubt. They might dismiss your achievements, making it seem like your success is not that impressive. If you are proud of something, they will downplay it. If you express happiness, they will find a way to sour the moment. They do this because they need you to feel small. A confident person cannot be controlled, so their first strategy is always to chip away at that confidence. But when you remain unaffected, when you refuse to take their words to heart, the narcissist realizes that their usual tactics are not working. That is when they shift to another strategy. Guilt and obligation. And that is when they shift to another strategy. Guilt and obligation. They will make you feel responsible for their emotions, manipulating you into thinking that standing up for yourself is somehow wrong. You've changed, they might say. You don't care about me like you used to. They play the victim, acting as though your strength is hurting them. But in reality, what is hurting them is the fact that they cannot manipulate you the way they want to. When guilt fails, the narcissist will resort to chaos. They will provoke arguments, twist your words, and create situations designed to drain your energy. They will turn others against you, spreading misinformation and painting you as the villain. They do this because they need to regain power, and if they cannot do it directly, they will do it by influencing the people around you. They want you to feel isolated, to second-guess yourself, to become so overwhelmed that you finally break down and submit to their control. But here's the truth. A strong person does not break. A strong person does not allow someone else's insecurities to dictate their self-worth. A strong person does not lower themselves to match the narcissist's chaos. A strong person recognizes the manipulation and chooses not to engage. And that is what truly destroys the narcissist's power. When you do not react the way they expect, they lose their grip. When you do not let their words affect you, they feel powerless. When you walk away from their drama without looking back, they are left with nothing. A narcissist cannot survive without control, and when you take that away from them, they are forced to face their greatest nightmare. The realization that their power was always an illusion. This is why narcissists fear strong people, because strength is something they cannot take away. They can manipulate emotions, but they cannot manipulate a person who sees through them. They can try to break confidence, but they cannot break a person who refuses to accept their lies. They can try to create chaos, but they cannot shake a person who remains grounded in their truth. Your strength is their defeat because it exposes everything they are trying to hide. It shows the world who they truly are, people who rely on deception, control, and fear to maintain their influence. And when that influence is taken away, they have nothing left. The best way to win against a narcissist is not to fight them, it is to refuse to play their game. Set your boundaries, trust yourself, and never let them define your worth. The moment you do that, you take away their power, and in that moment, you win. A narcissist cannot stand to see someone break free from their control. When a person who was once under their influence starts to stand tall, reclaim their confidence, and move forward without them, the narcissist feels a deep sense of panic. They cannot handle the idea that someone they once manipulated is now thriving on their own, immune to their tricks and no longer seeking their validation. It is a direct blow to their fragile ego because it proves the one thing they fear the most: they are not as powerful as they pretend to be. Narcissists build their identity around the idea that they are superior, that they hold the power in every situation. They believe that they are the ones in control, the ones who dictate how people feel and behave. So when someone they tried to manipulate suddenly becomes stronger, more confident, and completely independent, it shatters their illusion. They are forced to confront the truth. They were never as dominant as they believed. They realized that the power they thought they had was never real. It only existed as long as the other person allowed it. This is why narcissists react so strongly when someone escapes their influence. At first, they might try to pull the person back in. They will use guilt, charm, or even fake apologies. "I've changed," they might say. "I've realized my mistakes." They will try to appeal to your emotions, hoping that you will let them back into your life. But it is not because they genuinely want to change. It is because they cannot accept the loss of control. They see your freedom as a threat, and their goal is to reestablish dominance as quickly as possible. If their charm doesn't work, they will resort to anger and smear campaigns. They will spread lies, twist stories, and try to make you look like the villain. They cannot accept the idea that you left on your own terms, so they will do everything in their power to rewrite the narrative. They want to make sure that in the eyes of others, you are the problem, not them. This is their way of protecting their ego, of convincing themselves that they still have control over how people perceive them. But deep down, they know the truth. They know that the stronger you become, the less influence they have, and that is what terrifies them the most. A narcissist needs people who doubt themselves, who seek approval, who can be manipulated. They do not know how to handle someone who is completely secure in their own worth. They do not know what to do when someone walks away without hesitation, without regret, without looking back. This is why the best way to defeat a narcissist is not through revenge, not through arguments, but through complete indifference. When you move on, when you continue to grow, when you build a life filled with confidence, success, and happiness without them, that is the ultimate victory. It is a reminder that their power was always an illusion, that their control was never real, and that their fear of strong people was justified, because strength is the one thing they can never take away. Narcissists thrive on control, manipulation, and deception, but their greatest weakness is a strong individual who refuses to be broken. They fear those who see through their illusions, who stand firm in their truth, and who do not rely on external validation. Their entire existence is built on maintaining power over others, but when faced with a person who cannot be controlled, their world begins to fall apart. The moment you recognize their tactics and refuse to engage, you strip them of their influence. When you stand tall, set boundaries, and walk away without looking back, you force them to confront the truth. They were never as powerful as they believed. A narcissist's strength is a facade, and once exposed, it crumbles under the weight of reality. The best way to win against a narcissist is not to fight their chaos with more chaos, but to rise above it. Your power lies in your self-awareness, your confidence, and your refusal to be manipulated. Their fear is not of you personally, it is of what you represent: freedom, independence, and the undeniable proof that they do not control you. In the end, the strongest message you can send a narcissist is your success, your peace, and your refusal to let their fear dictate your life, because true strength is not just about resisting manipulation, it's about thriving beyond it.